we're very fortunate to be joined by a man who played 60 games for the Manly Sea Eagles, 20 for Penrith, and 60 so far in his career for our beloved Vodafone Warriors, and 11 tests for the Kiwis. Everyone welcome Warriors centre, Peta Hiku. Hey, Pet, how are you, bro?
Hey, bro, yeah, good.
That's good.
Hey, Pet, thanks for joining us. So that was a great win on the weekend. Unfortunately, you picked up an injury in that game, though. Can you tell us about the injury and kind of how long you may expect to be out for?
So dislocated my shoulder, and I've had surgery on it in the past, so I could be out for the year, or still waiting on some decisions to make.
Can't catch a break, can you, bro?
Nah.
First game back from that. There was an MCL injury you had before?
Yeah. So, done my knee Canberra game.
Yeah.
Missed 2 weeks, come back, play 5 minutes, and bloody hell.
I know. It's just can't catch a break, bro. We'll go back.
Yeah,
injury aside, we'll go back to where it all started for you. Can you tell us where you grew up and who you played your junior rugby league for back in New Zealand?
Yeah, so I grew up in obviously New Zealand, a little town called Gisborne, so there's not too much there. But I played Union all my life there, and then I moved to Auckland when I was about 16, and then I played for the Rewa Marlins. So that was my junior footy club. So I played league my first time when I was 16, under 16s or something.
Just on that, how does the New Zealand system work? Because you played for the Marlins, but then you'd also play for the Stingrays in the counties, was it? Yeah.
So I think up till I was about under 20s, I think it was, they decided to make a counties, Manukau, and an Auckland team.
Yep.
Because I don't think they had counties at first, and then all the Auckland teams were just trying to play for Auckland, and then I think they sort of just split it up. And then to try it out, the first year was there was this like the south of Auckland and then the north of Auckland, and so they just ended up making a counties team, and then from there you play against Auckland. So that's how that come about.
Yeah, well, in 2012, you played for the Warriors under-20s, and you were actually named under-20s Player of the Year. So that must have been a massive honour for you.
Yeah, that was out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting that under-20s. That was my first year. I signed my 20s contract in round 1, so I think they were playing on a Friday or Saturday. I might have signed my contract on the Friday, and then they had their first game on the Saturday. So so I missed like the first 3 rounds or something, 4 rounds, and then I think Omar got injured, and then I got a shot at the back, and then after that we had a couple more injuries, and I happened to get a couple of games together, and then stuck my way into the squad, and the coach John Ackland ended up liking the way I played and looked after me that year.
You played junior Kiwis that year too, didn't you?
Yeah.
Got selected for junior Kiwis, and then you signed with Manly from 2013. How did that come about? Was there an offer from the Warriors back then?
Oh, it was pretty crazy at the time because I didn't have a manager, so so I didn't have a manager. So when I played 20s, I had my Rewa manager. She was just like, "Oh, the Warriors want you to go have an open trial or like a preseason trial with them." So I was just doing preseason, and then obviously they liked that, and then that's why I signed round 1. So that all come out of nowhere, and then as I was playing for the 20s, one of our boys, Lingy Sal, was obviously he had a manager at the time, and he was Manly were trying to sign him, so they ended up signing him, and then I think the week they signed him, they asked him, his manager, if I had a manager, and they were a bit interested. So we were at training, and he goes, "Do you have a manager?" And I was like, "A manager? What do you need a manager for? What's a manager?" And then he started explaining it to me, and I was like, "Oh no, I was just here to play." So his manager ended up he went back to his manager, which was Stan Martin, and Stan Martin over the next couple of days, Stan just come up to me and was like, "Oh, Manny's interested in you. Like, I'm happy to be your manager." And I was just like, "Yeah, sweet." Like, that's all that come about. But yeah, before, like a week before that, I had the Warriors offer me like a 1-year deal on a part-time contract.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then my manager come forward, and then but at the time they had like Kevin Locke, Fish Yahi, and they weren't even the main fullbacks at the time.
Pretty stacked, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and I was playing fullbacks in the 20s, and so they had depth of doom back then. So I was just like, oh. And then my manager sort of spoke to me, and he was just like, "Oh, like you'd be behind a lot of players here. So if you go to Manly, there won't be as much of a like. I think I'll be behind like one person if I go well." And then so that's why I was just like, "Oh yeah, sweet, I'll take it."
Yeah,
Nice.
well, the move did pay off for you pretty quickly, because you made your debut for Manly in round 6 against Cronulla, and you scored a try on debut as well. So what are your memories? What are your memories of your first grade debut and your first NRL try?
So it was all pretty crazy because I was getting ready to go to my game, my New South Wales Cup game, and then as I was getting in the car to leave, the NRL had just finished captain's run, so they were doing captain's run, and David Williams just got injured at the end of captain's run. So he called me just before I was on my way to the game, and he was like, "Don't go play, you're debuting." And I was like, man, I was going crazy, but it was funny because he was trying to call my phone, and in my room at the house I had no service. So, and I had a voicemail that was like one of those cheeky ones, like hello, like sorry, can't hear, like and
Classic.
So he ended up, like, the coach ended up bringing one of the other boys, and the first thing he said to me was, "Change your fucking voicemail," and I was just like, "Holy, what the hell's going on?" So and then he ended up telling me like, you'll be debuting," and then I was just like, just was over the moon. But the hardest thing about it was I wasn't allowed to tell anyone.
That was Tuvey was the coach back then, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I played my junior footy against Jeff. He's he doesn't have a good sense of humour.
What do you mean? Tubes can't take a joke? Is that what you're saying?
He has his little moment, and then he can switch back to the nice mellowed out guy. So it was pretty funny. We laughed about it like like the week later.
You had a good season, that 2013 season, because you played 12 games in first grade, and you kept the Wolfman out of first grade for a while there. He actually was playing New South Wales Cup because your form was that good. You played the 4-0 loss to the Roosters in the semi-final. That night you ran for a then club record of 297 metres and was man of the match in the losing side. What was it like playing your first NRL final?
It was crazy, man. Like I'm not the one to get like pretty nervous, but so I was watching the game beforehand, and like there was a game before us, and we were watching it, and I was just like, the crowd was just getting like pretty busy, and I was just like, what the hell? Like I had to go inside to stop thinking about like how I'm going to perform in front of them. So I was just like, bloody hell, I better go in there, take my mind off it. But I think if I could do it again that night, like it was just the fact that like it was just such a big crowd and like a big stage, and just the way it was just the whole week being prepared. Like it was just like, obviously you have the season, you prepare for a game, and then as soon as you make the finals week, it's just like the hype just became like you were playing a whole different comp or something.
Intensified.
It was crazy.
Yeah, well, the very next week, you backed up and you ran for 231 metres in the semi-final win over the Sharks. So Brett Stewart then made a comeback to play in the grand final. So it must have been a bit of a hard pill to swallow that you just missed out on playing in that 2013 grand final side.
At the time, the more I talk about it, like as it goes on, I'm sort of like, I look back at it like, oh man, I wish I played. But at the time, because I was playing behind like an all-time backline, like you're actually like, so I was like, oh man, that's the dream team. So like I didn't really mind at the time, but then like because that was my first year, and it was just like, oh yeah, sweet. But like obviously after a couple of years later, it's not an easy comp. So you're like, man, like now that I look back at it, it's pretty disappointing that like you were a part of such a successful crew, and then you didn't get to play it. But yeah, obviously, yeah, we didn't get the result we wanted. But yeah, no, it was awesome that year though.
Jason Fidz is saying, whatever, Peta, and come on, man. He's saying, I made you.
Listen, no, he's all right.
2014, you start the season off well. You keep the Wolfman out of first grade again. And your early season form sees you named at fullback in your first Kiwis squad for that Anzac Test. What was the experience like being named to represent your country?
Yeah, that was something like, because it was crazy that week I wasn't expecting to play the Anzac Test, and like that week we played Canberra, and I think that was the week I scored like 4 tries against them. So I was just wrapped at that, and then as I come off the field, my team manager goes, here's someone on the phone for you. And it was the Kiwis and that. So, like, I couldn't celebrate the win. I had to go straight in the camp to get ready for the Kiwis. So I was like over the moon about it, but I was like, oh, man, I would like 4 tries. It doesn't come that easy in the NRL. Like, you want to celebrate a moment like that. But, yeah, like, even getting named into the squad, it was just like, man, this is... Like, yeah, so it was like probably one of the best weeks I had ever like come across. So yeah, it was just like yeah, getting named just topped everything off, like going in there. And then because I wasn't too close with Shawnee back then. Like obviously I was the 20s.
Yep.
So when I went into camp, Shawnee was my roommate. And
nice.
Like, yeah, so you were like Sean Johnson, like as you were coming through 20s and that, you were like, oh man, this fella's the man.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, when I walked in and he was my roommate, I was like, oh, bro, like, and because like back then, like my eating wasn't the best, the prep I wasn't the best, and like I had him as my roommate and he was doing everything right, and I was just like, holy, I got to step it up, like just hide a bit here, but no, it was pretty cracked up.
Yeah. Well, on the 13th of May that year, you re-signed with Manly until 2017. Media reports at the time said that you turned down an offer from the Bulldogs and $1 million offer from the Warriors. So how accurate were those reports?
Nah. Oh, no, I don't think it wasn't offered $1 million. It's way off. But I think it was just what the club was about. Like at Manly, it was just they had a successful club, and just the way they organised everything, and the people I was behind, I just thought, oh, man, I got so much to learn. Like just the year I was there was so much I had learned. And then, so I was just like sort of thinking about the long run, and then, yeah, but like I enjoyed my time there. It was good.
Yeah. 2014, you played all 26 games for Manly. Finished the season as the top try scorer with 17 for the club. And again, you're selected to play fullback in the Four Nations tournament, a tournament that we had 2 wins over the Kangaroos in the first round match, and then including the final. That must have been an amazing experience, because back then we didn't get a lot of wins over the Kangaroos.
Yeah, it was actually pretty mean. Like obviously we had like a few boys that had been playing for a while. So I know my Anzac Test, and like we obviously lost to them. And like even then they were like, man, that's the first time I felt like beating them. Like,
yeah,
we had a chance to beat them, and I was just so far. That's pretty mean. Like coming in and hearing that kind of stuff. We had like, I think it might have been like 5 debutants that game or something, and they said something like that. So that gave me a lot of confidence. Like saying like, oh yeah, that's pretty mean. And then the Four Nations come about, and then yeah, like obviously we went there and won every game. We beat them in the final, and yeah, after the final, just the stories the boys were telling me, and they were just like over the moon about it. And like, yeah, being New Zealand, growing up in New Zealand myself, and like when you look at Aussie, you always want to beat Aussie. So,
Yep.
yeah, just being a part of that, beating them twice in a row was just like far out. Like we're normally the underdogs to them, and we got them twice, which was pretty mean.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
2015 as well. You played 22 games for Manly, and you become firmly entrenched in the Kiwis squad as well. But at the same time, at Manly, Trent Barrett's appointed the coach, and you get released from the final 2 years of your contract. So what happened there?
Oh, I think they just sort of had like obviously like they had a board wanted to take over how like the board, they had two sides of the board. One of them wanted to take over, and then they wanted a bit of a clean out because I don't know, they weren't agreeing with coaching staff or whatever was happening. And then yeah, I come back from the England tour we had that year, and he pulled me into the meeting, and which I look at it now, like so they had they still had like Brett Stewart, Matt I. They still had like all the boys that were still there back into their contracts, and they had that Tommy Turbo coming through. So it was just like they wanted him to be like their future club, and which was fair enough. Look at him now, but yeah, so that's why they sort of had the changeover. So yeah,
what a freak. The media
Yeah,
linked
he's
you with the Eels, Rabbits, and Dragons, but you signed a 3-year deal with Penrith from 2016. Unfortunately, your season ends early with an injury. Any injury is frustrating, but season-ending injuries, how frustrating are they to deal with? Like, especially when they're so early on in a season.
yeah, I think because the most frustrating part is missing the games, obviously. Because you do all the hard work in preseason to get back and play, and then when you miss out on majority of the year, you're just like, oh, what's the man? Like that's frustrating. And then you sort of do all that hard work to get a spot in the team, and then someone like you get injured, and then someone else gets the chance to perform, and then you come back and you don't have the confidence as what you did before the injury. So that's all the tough part that you have to sort of battle through. But I think if you just can mentally just like look after yourself. I know what my knee, like I just felt like I was turning up to training and I was getting flogged every day for nothing. Like at the end of the week, like I wasn't getting ready for a game. Like my season was done. So I just like, yeah, I was just like, man, I'm getting flogged for nothing. So I didn't really do my rehab properly because I was just like on the drink every weekend, like watch the boys, I'd have a beer. So I was just like, yeah, looking back at it now, I wish I'd done like a bit more professional, but like, yeah, at the time, you're just getting flogged and then you get no reward for it at the end of it. That's what it felt like. But looking back at it, they keep you in shape so that your knee comes better than what it was, or then, but at the time, you're just like, man, this is pointless. But like, as they say, you fight demons, and you end up finding a better way at the end of it.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, speaking of injuries, you've had all different kinds because 2017 rolled around and unfortunately you fractured your eye socket in the round 1 game against the Dragons. And by June, you released to join Warrington in the Super League. How was the experience playing over in England?
It was good because I went over there and it was the summer over there. So they were just getting into the summer. So I missed all the cold part of it. And yeah, when I went over there, it was just I found a way to enjoy footy again. Like when I come back from my injury, I was just, like I said, you lose confidence in that. And then obviously there's people that had the chance to perform and they were playing well. So it was hard to sort of get a shot back at your spot. And then when I went over there, I was just enjoying the game again, and just made me realize that, stuff happens and you just always got to find a reason why you play the game. It's not just to perform in the NRL, but like you want to enjoy it as well. Like obviously NRL is top where you want to play at, but yeah, like you obviously got to enjoy it as well. So that's why I really enjoyed my trip over to Warrington.
Is the game like similar pace to the NRL, or is it a little bit slower? Is it not as much oriented on defence and more oriented on attack over there?
Um, it's not too bad when you come across good teams or like teams that are fully strength. Like it ends up being a decent game, but the only difference is like they have a bit more time in the ruck and that, like yeah, so you could slow it down a bit more. Like the physicality and that was all there, the speed, but yeah, like I said, like when we went over there, or when I went over there, Warrington had a few injuries. That's why they were so desperate to get me over there. So once you get a few injuries, you're reaching down to players that are getting paid like $5,000 for the year, and you don't expect them to do what someone getting paid 100,000 is doing. So yeah, when you play teams that are coming across that kind of stage, then you're just like, oh, like there's always some sort of weakness. Like they're probably doing a bit better now, but when I was there, yeah, they had like we had picked someone up from like he was playing good in the under 18s fullback, but he had so much to learn, and he was like under 18 or something, and he was playing like Super League because Warrington had a few injuries, and I was just like, far out. Like when I seen that, I was just like, man, that's crazy. Like just to see like had the way they worked it out over there.
Yeah. Jason's asking, is Peta in the penthouse at Star of the Sea?
Please, I wish. player like me don't get that. Got to get past Roger in that first.
Yeah, right.
We'll get on to the important stuff. So 2018, you're one of several major signings for the Warriors. How did you come to be signed by the club? How did that all come about?
Yeah, so when I went over there to England, I would have been playing like my third game or something, and Mooks just called me, and he was just like, man, I had no idea you were on the way out or something. Like, so he was like, if I can get you back here, would you come back, or was it a waste of time trying to organise it? And yeah, I was just like, yeah, sweet, I'll come back. Or like, there's something like I can get out of this one, and then so he was just like, oh, sweet, I'll work on it, talk to your manager, and then I'll get back to you. And then that's how it all came about. And obviously Mooks was my coach in the Kiwis, so yeah, he was happy to have me there.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, well, we were certainly very happy to have you back as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I was over the moon to come back, man.
Yeah. And you made your debut for the Warriors in the 32-20 win over South Sydney in Perth. So how did it feel to finally put the Warriors jersey on for the first time?
Yeah, it was actually like the build-up. I was actually like, man, this is what I've always wanted to do. Like, obviously, I had Simon Mannering and that there, and like Sean Johnson, who had been at the club for a while, and I was just like, man, it's pretty cool. Like, I've watched the Warriors coming through, but that first game, man, that was not one of the games you sort of wanted to play. It was over in Perth, bloody hot as, so
you never went over there.
Bro, and I was just like, man, what a first game! Like, have to get up, and it was against South, who had a big forward pack at the time, so I was just like, holy.
The 28 season, 2018 season is the best start to a season that the Warriors have ever had. We won our first 5 games of the season. I was at the round 3 win over Canberra when Shawnee kicked the 2 field goals. I think it was at the end of the game, yeah. And then that round 4 win over the Roosters when Shawnee was out, Mason Linnell had to play, and I think we beat
him. That was over here too, eh?
Yeah, 30-4, and it was massive. Like, we went to the Canberra game, there was about 20 of us in that supporters bay that they have there for us at Canberra, and we won that game. We go to Sydney to the stadium, and I think we sold out 3 bays. We finished that season in 8th spot, but we're only 2 points out of first. How do you remember that first? Yeah, how do you remember that first season at the club? Pretty special. Yeah,
it was. Yeah, no, it was pretty mean. Like, obviously, we started on fire. We played pretty well, and then yeah, we obviously had the chance to go to play finals, and yeah, so that year was pretty mean. I think everyone just enjoyed the hype, or like I enjoyed the hype being back home, and then I had mates that I played 20s with.
Yep.
So yeah, and like I had my family around when like back in New Zealand, so I could just get that time away, and it was pretty mean. And then going into the Penrith game, I think yeah, that semi-final, like we started pretty well, and obviously Roger went down, and then we had to re-scramble again, and then people just sort of had to change the mentality of what they wanted to do, which was, yeah, pretty disappointing.
Yeah. We spoke to Jazz about that game, and Jazz said probably the hardest thing for him at the end of that game was looking over at Simon Mannering, realising that was his last game of footy and the end of his career. He said that was a pretty hard pill to swallow for him.
Yeah, he was, yeah, looking back at it, he was probably the person that was down the most out of all of it. Like someone that's been at the club for so long, I think he's always wanted. Everyone wants to win a grand final, so
yeah,
that would have been the most disappointing thing for everyone there that's played alongside him and everything. So yeah, but like yeah, seeing someone like that, he's a champion bloke, man, and like he deserved the grand final win, man.
Yeah. Well, despite the disappointing nature of that finals game against Penrith, everyone was on a bit of a high after we waited so long to get back into the finals, and the 2019 season rolls in, and everyone was excited because we returned to the OG colours for the 25th season. But unfortunately, on the field, it was a little bit disappointing. So, what do you think had the biggest impact on the form reversal from 2018 through to 2019?
Oh, I could say it was a lot of things. We could have had a lot of excuses, but I think we were just physically drained. Like we knew we needed to be a fit team, but there were times where we'd just like we didn't really rest any players coming through. Like Roger, for an example, he'd play every game, train every training sesh, and like he hardly ever got to rest his legs. So it was just sort of like getting over the fact that we were doing so much high intensity stuff all the time, not refreshing the mind or something. But I think that was just, yeah, like I said, that just could have been us just trying to find an excuse to get an easier way or something. But yeah, I think we sort of just lost a bit of our way with with how we wanted to play.
Did Sean leaving cause a bit of uncertainty there as well?
Well, that's what I mean. Like we were sort of just left out of things like that. Like we had no idea. Like normally, like even with our leadership group, you talk to the club about things like that. Like if they have something to talk about, but like to this day, I still haven't spoken to Shawnee about what's happened. I've just let it go on. But
yeah,
like for it to happen so certain, like I was with him at Kiwis camp, and then we get back to training, and then like he was saying, "Nah, I'm not going anywhere, and then get there, and then bang, like different story, like something just come out of nowhere, yeah. And but yeah, I remember him just saying, like when we were at camp, I haven't heard anything about it. The first time I heard it was my mate screenshotted it and sent it to me. So I was just like, holy. Yeah, so it was just like, what was going on?
Yeah. The 2020 season started under very difficult circumstances. We played Newcastle in that round one loss up there in that awful shit weather. It was pissing down rain. I was up there for that. You remember my mate Josh came and spoke to you guys before the game. Yeah. And then you find out pretty much after that game that you can't go home. The COVID things kind of enveloped the world. You guys have only really packed for a light overnight stay.
Yeah, it's probably lucky that COVID didn't come up, or else we would have copped the spray. made the loss a bit easier.
Can you? Yeah.
Feel malarkey.
Um, what was the feeling like within the squad then? Because did you guys get told pretty much straight away in the dressing room that, look, this is what's going on?
It was pretty crazy because we obviously were down from the game, but as we got inside, like he just approached it like real different. Like it was like we had a loss, but there's something bigger we had to worry about. So
Yeah.
we were like, oh fuck, like there's something that's gonna happen. Yeah, so like it was just the way he explained it was like, oh, we'll talk about our game, we'll review it, and then we'll talk about whatever we've got going on like later on. And then that's when it was like, holy. And then yeah, it was just like we were just talking about a loss. Like it wasn't like any blow ups or like it was like there was something else bigger that we had to worry about. So yeah, and then that all come about. And then yeah, just out of nowhere, because I didn't even like I'm not too big on like following like stuff through social media or the news or anything. So I had no idea that this flu was going around. And then when it just put the whole thing on lockdown, I was just like, holy. But yeah, I always knew I was going home because my partner was having a baby. So I was like, oh, I got to go, man. Can't be locked out of the New Zealand and babies coming along.
Yeah.
It was the same with you and Paddy Herbert as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, he just had his one or something. Yeah, so it's pretty crazy.
So you go home. New Zealand goes into full COVID lockdown. Can you describe how difficult that was? Because you guys pretty much couldn't leave your houses, could you?
Yeah, so it was like, yeah, so we went straight into lockdown. So I went back and then, like, it was crazy because I couldn't even, because we obviously had my oldest boy and my partner was going to hospital to have a baby, but I was allowed in, but my boy wasn't allowed in with us. So like, yeah, I had to get someone else to, like, if I wanted to go in, I had to get like my mum or something to watch baby, but she was working. So her job said she wasn't allowed to leave her bubble. Well, she couldn't work. So I couldn't have my mum watch baby. And I was just like, man. And then, yeah, so I went home to basically look after my son while my partner had baby on her own. So I was at home, yeah, and she was, so yeah, the rules, it was just hard to like adapt to it. It was sort of just like, as just, like the days got on, everything was changing and you couldn't really fight it. You had to just say, yes, all right, we understand, and just go with what was going on.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it was certainly crazy times. Yeah, affected like the whole world. In terms of rugby league, but well, in terms of rugby league, the comp actually gets the green light to go ahead, and the Warriors fly into Tamworth for the 14-day isolation. And after that 14-day period, the team goes to Terrigal to set up base and play home games out of Central Coast Stadium. So how difficult was it in those early weeks when you when you all went back to Australia to be away from home?
I think it was just the fact not knowing what was going to happen the next day or the next hour. Like anything could have changed. And yeah, like obviously, and we were away from our families, and like when you're away from your family and just with the boys, like you really just think, "Fuck, what are we doing?" Like, so you start falling into like bad habits, just finding like we weren't even allowed to leave the place, so you just trying to find ways to get your mind off, and you can only play so much game. But like I knew my family was coming over because she was born and raised in Oz. So I just had 8 weeks of it. And even that 8 weeks, I was just like, man, this is like crazy. I don't know how like Roger's going to do it for the whole year. Like, yeah. So it was just like, yeah, I had a little snip of it, but like just that little part I started like, bro, I don't know how these fellas can do it. Like 8 weeks was too long.
We when we had Jazz on, we asked him what it was like living in that COVID bubble up there on the Central Coast. Because the rest of Australia, we were all going about our normal lives pretty much, but you guys had to be vigilant and make sure that you didn't come into contact with people in the off chance it might bring the comp down. But Jazz was saying there were some ridiculous things, like you had to set up your gym every day, like put up fencing in the gym to do your gym workout.
Yeah.
But the fencing's got like that.
Yeah, you can see through it. It was like pretty pointless.
Not really
But
COVID, so.
yeah, it was just to sort of get, like I wasn't stopping anything. If someone had it in their cough, like that fence wasn't going to stop it. Like, yeah, but it was pretty like, just like all that kind of stuff, just trying to organize like things to do just so that we could train, or like if something else popped up and we weren't allowed to do it. There was just little like annoying things. Like it was like you couldn't do anything fun.
Yeah.
Everything was just train home, game home. So you couldn't find. Yeah, it was just like more mentally draining if you unable to do anything else.
Yeah, well, when the season does actually restart and you get to play a few games, we have a great win, 18-0 win over the Dragons, followed by a 26-0 loss to Penrith, 37-26 win over the Cowboys, and then our next game is a 40-12 loss to Souths. And after that game, Steve Kearney is sacked. As fans, we were pretty blindsided by that decision. Was it a massive shock to the playing group as well?
Yeah, so I found out through the news. So we had recovery. So not recovery, sorry, we had a review, and that's normally like 8 a.m. But then he obviously must have got the call that morning, so they moved it to the afternoon. And then just before our 6 o'clock meeting, I was watching like Channel 9 was on or something, and then one of the boys had come in and was like, he come in and he was like, bro, turn on Channel 9, and it said Steve Kearney had been sacked, and I just walked past him like prior coming into my room, and they looked down, so I was like, we must be getting in trouble here. But then like seeing that on Channel 9, and I was just like, oh no, like what's this meeting gonna be like? So yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah. Todd Payton's given the interim coach's job. His first assignment is against Melbourne, a game which is probably our worst performance of the season last year. The first 22 minutes were good. After that, it just went all downhill.
Downhill from there, yeah.
His press conference was pretty no-nonsense and direct, and he maintained that hard-nosed approach all through the season. The squad really seemed to buy into his philosophy and attitude, though.
I think I really liked the way he handled everything with it. Obviously, we were already doing it tough.
Yep.
And then with that, he had to he just got put into place, like not expecting it, and not the way he wanted to be named head coach. But when he approached it, he was just like, boys, like just come out, was honest, told us what he thought, and he just come about like, we can't feel sorry for ourselves, like we can't let this be an excuse, and then sort of just train things, and he was open to the floor about how we wanted to do things, and like if there was anything he wanted to change and we didn't like it, he was happy to leave it the way it was. So I think that's where he brought a lot of the players, is that we had a big say on
how,
no matter who you were. Just like he just had a big, like, he'll say something, and then if one of the boys said, nah, we don't agree, he'd just be like, all right, then I'll get out of here, like use the use. But so I think he just really, really connected with the players pretty good.
Yeah, well, we followed up that thrashing from Melbourne with a good win against the Broncos, but then 2 losses to the Gold Coast and the Sharks. So after the Sharks game, Fuss, Ken, Ignatius Parsi and King, they all returned to New Zealand. Not to put you on the spot, but did that decision affect the squad in any way?
No, I think it didn't really affect us. We sort of knew it was going to come, because like Fuss is a big family man, or so is Ken and Iggy and that. But like you could just see the way they were around training. They weren't happy. Like they had their mind was elsewhere. Like obviously Fuss's partner was pregnant, and her doing it on her own, it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
So like, I think it was probably one of the best things for them to go back, just so that they were happy, because if they were happy here, it would have been all right, but you could see that they were just carrying something with them. So, yeah, I think it was like, it sort of affected us, thinking like, oh man, what are we going to do? And then, like, because obviously we had to loan players after that. But, yeah, like, the boys sort of just, like, that's just another excuse we got, but don't make it an excuse. We're going to have to, like, we got to stop making people feel sorry for us. Like,
Yep.
that's what we were sort of wanting, and everyone, like, because after a lot of games, people would like thank us, and we were just like every team was doing it, and we sort of we appreciated it, but we didn't feel like Melbourne pumped us and they come in and said thank you. The last thing we wanted to was to get that, make them feel sorry for us. Like, yeah. So like we were sort of getting over it, like as we were losing and they were saying thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just crazy.
Kind of does it feel a little bit patronising when they're doing that?
Yeah, like, it was just like they were coming in and saying, "No, we understand your situation." Like,
They don't.
Yeah, like, but like we obviously want to win. Like, we're not coming here to bloody just lose games. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. We're making up the numbers. Yeah.
Once the crowds were allowed back into the games, because there was a couple of games there where there was no crowds, but we as Aussie-based fans, we don't get to see you boys play as often as we'd like to. We're always the away fans. They always stick us in a corner of a stadium where we don't get a really good view. From a selfish perspective, last year we got to experience a little taste of what it was like to be a home fan, and we've continued that on this season. Last year they had us on the far side of Central Coast Stadium, but this year we kind of made a stand, and we've got all that section just behind the bench there. Does it lift the team? I know you guys are away from home and away from Mount Smart and away from all your home fans, but does it lift your team knowing that there is a loyal group of fans that, you know, we can come to every game that we can at Central Coast and Sydney to give you guys as much support as we can?
Yeah, no, it's actually pretty mean, like, with everyone that's been coming to the games and just having the support, like they're just all sort of trying to build their own little home here for us. Like, obviously they've got chants for us. Like, there was when I missed the Roosters game, or was it the Roosters game, and they were yelling out chants and that, or something.
That was
like
at the,
one of the home games.
That was the Manly game.
Yeah.
The Manly game, and they were like having chants. I was like, oh, that's pretty mean. Like, normally over here,
who
like,
started that? You know who organised those
nah.
games? Hilton Harris.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
So Richie Morgan's the head of Warrior Nation, and he got in touch with Hilton, and Hilton wrote some songs, and everyone's been learning those. So the plan is to chant them and sing them at every home game. The problem that we had was every time we started singing, the announcer would start coming over, or he'd start playing music or something. So we've got to try.
Find a good spot.
Yeah, but no, we're happy that it's making you guys feel a little bit like supported here in Australia while you're here. Because that
was actually pretty mean. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, good.
Like, I don't know if the boys on the field heard it or anything, but I was on the sideline and I was like, oh, that's pretty mean.
Actually, that leads me into another question. When you guys are on the field, what can you hear and what can't you hear? Like, do you zone out, like, say on the weekend, because I feel like the Central Coast or like Cogra, the crowd's a lot closer to the field than, say, when you're playing at the stadium or especially the Sydney Cricket Ground. Can you actually hear much of the crowd, or is it just...
You can, but I think that a lot of it's in, like, when tries are scored and you walk back for kickoff.
Yep.
Like, but like when I'm playing, I don't often hear anything. I'm just like, you can obviously hear that they're there, but I don't know what they're saying. So it's normally like tries. Sometimes the penalty when it's kicked for touch, like when it goes out, like they just yell out or Hiku or something, and then they catch your attention as it's going out. And then but like besides that, like you hardly hear what what the crowd says, and because normally when you're over here, they're normally trying to bag you, so they're just like you just leave it anyway. So
we're trying to change that. We're slowly trying to.
We're getting onto that.
yeah.
So in the 2020 season, so we had a game against the Sharks in round 18, which was kind of make or break. And unfortunately, that ended our semi-final dream fairy tale that could have been. How hard were those last few rounds after that, knowing that there wasn't going to be that semi-final fairy tale, but you still couldn't go home for another couple of weeks?
Oh, it wasn't too bad, because obviously by then, like, we had protocols that had been dropped, so we were allowed to go for walks and that. So we were like, come back and we'll probably have a beer in one of the boys' rooms or something, or in our team room, have a couple of beers. So after a game, so we sort of were just like, man, it's better to have a beer on a win. So let's get the win and then go back and celebrate it. So we were just like, bro, let's just rip in only a couple more weeks and then the boys get to go home. So that was pretty mean that the boys was still sort of like, obviously when you play, you still want to win, but yeah, obviously like the boys like that had got injured, like Rog, for example, had got injured. He could have gone home early, but he chose to stay just to show that support before the other boys that have been staying here the whole time. So it was actually like, it wasn't just like, oh, we could might as well just pack up and go home. It was, the boys were still like, let's finish what we started, sort of thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I was fortunate enough to be at that final game of the season against Manly at Central Coast. You guys put on a big show for the fans that day. It ended up being pretty emotion charged. You had Andrew Abdo came there to acknowledge the sacrifices of the squad, and they did that video display of rival players thanking the team again. A video farewell to all the departing players, and then there was that haka that was a real highlight for Adam Blair. The next day, you guys broke camp and finally returned home. Describe those feelings. That must have been a bit tough.
No, well, I didn't go home, so I've been here the whole time. So yeah, but it was, for me, just leaving that, it was a bit of relief, just knowing that like I don't have to go down the road and watch what I do, watch who I'm going past, like might get like questioned by the NRL or something. So it was just, but like, oh, finally I can, because like you weren't even allowed to go see family, stay at family's house or something. Like you had to get a pass for that or something. So yeah, like it was just me, and finally I can go see family, see friends, and actually have a beer about not worrying to get pulled in or something. So yeah, it was actually a bit of relief for me and the family to, because even my partner, she was just like, man, like, can mum come over? Like, can I go see her? Am I allowed to do these things? And I was just like, ask the manager, like, I don't know, like, don't get me in trouble. Yeah.
Go ask Dingo.
There you go. Check with Dingo. Yeah, because Sorry, go on.
We were just trying not to like be the club that got the comp stopped. So like we come over here, do all of that, and we didn't want to be the reason to like, oh, they don't even care, they don't even want to be here, sort of thing. So yeah, so it was just a relief to get away from that for me.
Yeah, well, as you said, you stayed back in Australia, and then sort of half the squad went back to New Zealand. Was it tough saying goodbye to everyone after spending so much time living together? No.
You sort of
do you want to think about that, or?
No, you sort of like, because I remember a few of the boys, you're in each other's pocket, bloody, for like whatever 22 weeks it was. Like it was something ridiculous. Like,
then we'll see you guys
like,
again.
Yeah, like it was pretty crazy for like a big camp like that, and us to still have a strong group. Normally, like if you can't stand someone, you just like obviously don't want to be around. Like you're not gonna just let them be around your house or like whatever. Yeah. So yeah, it was actually pretty mean that like we know everyone got along well, and yeah, like I remember Rog, like he had Jazz in his room and Nate, and when they went back, like Rog goes, I don't want to see you. So, like the whole time I'm back there, I'm just like, don't come and see me. And like,
It's understandable.
so like, but
Understandable.
like that's what I mean. So it wasn't too hard to say bye to anyone. It was just like, man, we finally can get away from this. Like it was like a relief. Like so I think the boys were sort of like, wanting the time away from everyone.
Yeah.
It was kind of a reminder of the whole journey and everything that you'd
Yeah.
been through as well. Yeah.
2021 season, pre-season commences with 2 separate squads training in 2 different countries. You trained in Kiama with the Aussie-based boys. That must have been a bit strange experience, having like just the smaller pre-season groups and then coming together a bit later on.
Yeah, I wasn't too bad. Like I sort of when I started at Kiama, there was about 13 of us, so I didn't catch the earlier boys where they started, and there was like 6 of them training. So I was like, oh, bro, lucky I missed that. But yeah, there was just a lot more running. Like obviously, like there's 13 of you or something. So like normally you have 30, and like even a catch pass drill, for an example.
Yep.
Like when you have lines of 4s and then there's 30 of you, you get so much more rest. But when there's 13 of you, you're going every second bloody.
Yeah.
So even that's just tiring. So like, yeah, it was just like a lot more running, less rest. So it was just like, and you couldn't really hide because like nowhere to hide with 13 people. So
well, the 2 groups that came together in January to spend the preseason in Tamworth and then to relocate to Terrigal for the season. So I'm guessing it was a bit different this time round. It's a much better situation, I guess, than the uncertainty of the previous year.
Yeah, it was obviously knowing that families were coming over was just a big change. So like, it's been heaps better, and like where we are at the moment, we've got all the families in that, and when we get home, we've sort of tried not to bring footy into our home time. So we're making like, so when you get here, you hardly ever see anyone unless you bump into someone down at the shop. So It's just like, so it's basically like they've made it real home. Like last year, we'd have meetings at 5 o'clock at night after trainings or something. So when you come here, like you think you can switch off, but you weren't really switching off because you still had to make sure you weren't late for this one, or else you get fined. Like obviously everyone has a fining system if you're late. So, but now we obviously can get home. Once we're home, we can just switch off. So yeah, it's pretty good.
Living as a community though, with your teammates for the 2nd year in a row, you must make some really strong bonds and connections with teammates that you probably ordinarily wouldn't make if you weren't all living together.
I think the biggest one is like obviously you have the first grade team, which is always together. So the other part is the cup team. You don't often travel. You don't stay nights with them or whatever you do. So I think it's just like all the older players get to know what the younger players are up to. Like, so I think it's just like instead of just knowing the NRL team, it's just a bigger squad. You know everyone.
Can you tell us what sort of influence Phil Gould has had during the off season and the start of the season?
Yeah, he's actually like been really, really good for the club. Like I don't know how he does it, but he's obviously made a living on how to tell speeches to clubs and how he presents himself. And he's just got that voice that when he speaks, he just locks you in. So just when he talks, he just knows how to get people attention. And it's not that he's talking rubbish. Like he knows what he's talking about. He's been around the game for so long. So you sort of just lock into what he's saying. And it's like just he spoke to us to the night before the game, because it was like Roger celebrating Roger's 100th. It was like his 100th dinner at the club, and he had a speech. And when he finished, I was like, man, he's good at his job. Like he just knows how to lock you in and get you. Like after he's finished talking, you're just like, wow, let's play now. Like he's pretty good. He's pretty good. Yeah.
Awesome.
I used to remember when he did those things before Origin matches. You know,
Oh,
under
yeah.
the goal
Well,
post.
that's what I mean. Like, yeah,
Yeah, ridiculous.
he's the hype man.
Yeah.
Rob and I had a good connection with the Women's Warriors team last season because they went through a similar thing with their COVID season. Only 4 games, I do realise. But they recognise the importance of respecting and embracing the different cultures represented within the squad. You guys have done that this year as well. How important were the cultural nights that you went through during the preseason?
Yeah, I think it was just like obviously pretty important just to have acknowledge like the cultural sides of people, and I think just like each culture like presenting something just showed a bit more about how they were brought up or what like their sort of situation, and yeah, like it's just mean like obviously the Māori we have our way, and just like being in New Zealand, you sort of know how Tongan, Sarsi, all of us are pretty similar. And then you got the Aboriginals over here, which I don't know, like I never really spoke about the Indigenous culture, never learned it in school or anything. And come over here and they're pretty similar too. So yeah, just sort of having all those things was pretty cool to like just understand like all the little things that have come about in cultures.
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, Pat, I'm going to ask you some questions that we ask all of our guests. So while Hammer here scrolls through the questions from the viewers, well, who was your toughest teammate?
Toughest teammate?
Can be like from Manly, Penrith, wherever, bro.
Anyone, any of the teams you played in, yeah.
I thought Steve Meadow was pretty tough.
Yeah.
Like he was just like he'd go to training, he'd be busted, but he still played and played like he never had a problem with it, like in his body. So I thought, yeah, Steve Meadow was pretty tough.
Yeah, good answer. What about the best sledger?
Sledger. At the moment, Toy Harris he's low key, but he's low key. Yeah, he's low key, but he often does it to people he knows.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not expect that.
He's smart. Like
he always comes across so quiet.
Yeah, you like there's a thing in the game. Like obviously they kick. Our winger takes it in, and I take play 2. Center normally takes play 2.
Yep.
And when you take play 2, he's like whoever's at second marker, he'll be like say by their first name, like Tino, you're off, and then they sort of look back and like because he says it by their first name, and they just like he's just got like all those little cheeky things.
Subtle.
He's actually he's probably one of the best in our team. Yeah.
Wow, I did not expect
He's
that at all.
No.
He's low key. He's low key.
We have heard he's the worst trainer.
Yeah, a few people.
Oh
said
yeah,
that.
100%. He didn't even train today.
All right, I reckon I might know the answer to this one. The biggest pest.
Yeah. Probably in like in the team.
Yeah.
Or just
in the team. Yeah.
Yeah, probably Jazz. Jazz is up there. If not Jazz, it'll be his mate Bully. Isaac Luke's pretty up there too.
Oh yeah.
I was expecting one of those two guys.
Yeah.
What about your toughest opponent?
Toughest opponent. That's a hard one. Toughest opponent.
Anyone that you've come up against?
Yeah, centre that you always know when you come up against him, it's probably a good battle.
I had so when I first come through GI, obviously he was he was just fast, strong. Yeah, he was BGI.
Okay, well if Tohu was the worst trainer, who's the best trainer?
Rog.
Yeah.
Rog.
Yeah, he does everything right and everything 100%.
Awesome.
Leads by example, eh?
Way to go.
Yeah.
Who's the squad comedian?
Comedian. Eden's actually. He's
We have heard
just
that. Yeah.
He's
What
just
about-
not trying to say the wrong thing in front of like the coaches and that. Like that's why it makes him pretty funny.
Yeah, we've had him and Kane Evans apparently.
Yeah, Kane Evans is pretty out there. He's out there.
So living in the COVID bubble, who emerged as the master chef of the squad?
Oh, so last year I had Blake Green as my roomie, and he loves it. Hey, that's what he's about. He can't keep still. So Greeny was actually like
Pretty handy cook.
he was just always cooking. So yeah, he was pretty good.
We heard Daniel Alvaro was pretty good too.
Yeah, I actually heard that he used to throw barbecues in that, and yeah, so yeah, we'll go around for a barbie, but I didn't really have too much of his cooking.
All right, we've got a couple of questions from the people watching. What's your thoughts on Murchie covering your position this week?
Yeah, obviously Murchie will always go out there and rip in. He always does his best, but yeah, I think especially with the prep he'll be able to have, he'll do pretty good, and he's obviously played there when I've got injured a few times, or other people have. So, and he's done a decent job.
Yeah, he played there in that Canberra game, didn't he? When you went off.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, with him too, he's never been to Mount Smart. 2 years at the end of this year, it'll be 2 years at the Warriors.
Funny, so
never seen Mount Smart Stadium.
We had to get staff back there to take photos of what our facilities look like, just so that the boys over here that have never been there could like.
Isn't that bizarre?
Have a see, yeah.
Bizarre? It's the times we live in, isn't it?
Signed for 2 years and never been there.
Josh Chitty's asking, what's your thoughts on you signing Reece Walsh?
Yeah, he's been a gun since he's been here. Like I didn't see too much of him beforehand, but since he's been in the squad, he's been pretty good. He's a confident little kid, and he's got some speed behind him, and yeah, so I think. And he's pretty skillful. So yeah, he'll be pretty good in the future. He'll be someone to look out for.
Oh, exciting.
Millie Robinson asks, the Super League is known for its vocal fans. When you played at Warrington, did the fans have a specific song for you?
Nah, I don't think I was there long enough to have a song, but I wish they did.
Do they make up songs for each player, do they?
Yeah, they try and give you a song that just goes with your name. Oh. So if your name fits in anywhere, so yeah, they just chuck you in there.
Wow. What's your most memorable moment in your career so far?
Probably, like obviously debuting for NRL or debuting for my country. Yep. Those like were my two biggest like real happy moments that I really I took in. So yeah, probably those two would be up there.
Who were your heroes growing up?
So obviously mum and dad were like my sort of go-tos, but if we were to go with footy, I liked Lance O'Hire.
Oh yeah,
he was yeah. So because when I started playing league, I was in different positions, and I noticed that he was like hooker, like fullback, halfback, and so like I noticed that, and I was like, man, I like the way this guy plays.
Did you support the Warriors when you were growing up, or did you have another team in the NRL that you?
Nah, the Warriors were the team I looked at, and like because I didn't watch too much league, so I was in Gisborne, and Union was all that we knew about. So when I moved up to Auckland, like it was just the Warriors. So all my mates were going for the Warriors, and so.
What are your thoughts on the new 6 again rule?
Yeah, when it's for you, it's good, but when it's against you, it's bad. So I'd rather take it away. But it's a pretty tough rule when you gotta like you get to the back end of a set and then they do it. It's tough.
What about with the going back to one referee? Do you prefer that, or do you prefer having 2 out there?
I didn't notice too much of the difference with the one referee, so yeah, I'm pretty happy with how it is.
If you weren't an NRL player, what career do you think you'd be in?
I'd like to say golf. But I'm no good at golf.
Pro golfer,
I
eh?
enjoy my time at the golf, but like, yeah, there's like a lot of shots that aren't on course.
Oh, mate, I think we're all a bit like that, aren't we? You won't be swinging a club for a while.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I
let's not
know.
do that.
So
You'll just have to wait on the 19th, mate, with a beer in
yeah,
hand.
might have to go. Yeah. So,
Oh, bro,
go.
we want to thank you for giving up your time, coming on to chat with us tonight. We wish you all the best with your recovery, and we can't wait to see you back on the field, brother.
Oh, bro. Thanks for having me, eh?
No worries,
Looking
bro.
forward to seeing you there.
Appreciate
Have
your
a good one,
time.
eh?
Thanks,
Thanks,
Matt.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers.